Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Adriane, your quantum love coach, founder of the newly founded Global Love Coach Academy. And we are jumping a big step ahead now. I haven't been online for almost 3 months, actually longer than 3 months. My last real Venus talk recording for this podcast series was done in Germany just before I departed for Portugal. And I had a very, very creative and very engaging time in Portugal, but also a very physically challenging time. So it was super hot. It was very, very different to any climate I some sort of know from Southern European countries. It was difficult to get to the ocean. It was really not completely my cup of tea, if I may say so. But then there was this other side to it, that I met amazing people, that there was a beautiful connection to a very old, very dear sisterly friend I hadn't seen for almost 30 years. And also there was this real awakening that in Spain, in Portugal, is a big group of people seeking help, learning about love and relationship, as there in these two countries is the absolute highest divorce rate on the entire planet. Spain and Portugal carry 94, this is the number, 94% of divorce rate, which is the highest in the entire global average of what we know. What it means, we're having 100% marriages and 94 out of 100 get divorced again, which then told me another story that obviously has to do with mentality and not being very expressive and loud. I found Portuguese people very, very gentle and very kind people, very almost held back people. And here comes the interesting part, if we speak loudly, if we speak out, if we express ourselves a little bit more than the average, mentality, or how can I say, personality of particular cultures in the world, then we find it very, very simple and very easy to not speak what we actually really, really want to say and want to express in our very, very deep, most important parts of our lives. So I want to actually really encourage this whole podcast today to also me having the courage coming back and speaking after a time of other, not just physiological challenges, but also, changes in our family. I spoke about the grief, having lost a grandchild through miscarriage. That obviously triggered in some people a kind of a reaction. And that reaction of others had in me this result that I stepped back and thought, can I really honestly utilize my very own webcast and podcast as something to speak about what's really going on in my life, bringing into context what the world is really all about. It's about growing, learning, and helping each other as humans to understand who we truly are. And there was this moment where I had to rethink why I really do this. Do I speak because I feel I have to say something that is really important about my own life, which I hope that others take as a lesson, as a learning for themselves? Or is it something that I simply, voice to tell the world that there's so much more pain and so much more, interesting and important evolutionary steps to consider in our humanity, that we often forget that we are not alone. So I came to the conclusion to just let it settle a little bit and get more clarity. And while I was getting more clarity, returning back to Bali early August, my life got really intense and wild, and realizing now is the time to build this academy. And with a lot of great support, we are now a team of 12 people working in my company as contractors and employed team. We are beautifully preparing our first training of making love coaching accessible for a certification here in this part of the world, particularly for those who are willing to fly to Bali or travel to Bali to be with us for the several modules per year to really get into the depths of what love coaching really means in a more comprehensive, more heart-centered and more broader way. So now I want to shift this whole conversation to something really triggered by this idea I spoke at the beginning. What is it? Why are we speaking out? What is it when we speak out? And is it here for really helping or not? And I think the first big lesson is it helps us. I want to be really honest that with everything I do here and learn here at this very stage of my career is really trying how much more I can push myself to really be ready to share everything that sits as depth and as width and as wealth in my inner self, having shared only partially with many, many people I coached and, acted as a healer or a muse or, conductor for their transformation. Here comes this interesting part that I really, really decided I just do it and I learn along the way. And I believe I said right at the beginning in one of my first podcasts here that forgive me if it's not as perfect, forgive me if I'm not sounding like the ultimate speaker who has completely prepared what she is doing every time she is starting the camera. No, it's also this interesting part that I'm really, really, really excited about, just seeing what happens when, the camera moves and I speak into what is a cold room of my very own truth. And I met a very interesting man here in Bali only 2 or 3 weeks ago. Many of you know him. He's very, very, very well known as the creator and the conductor of the podcast Diary of a CEO. We're talking about Stephen Bartlett, who came to Bali and conducted several events, not just one. And I took the opportunity to attend as many as possible. So first I bought a ticket for his big evening in Nusa Dua. He was making an official Bali public appearance, and there was the opportunity attached to be invited for a VIP meeting before this event, and I managed to be invited for this VIP meeting, really not just in buying a ticket, but really being invited to join the group, which was wonderful and very, very exciting to meet also other new people I hadn't met before in Indonesia. And then there was another event that was conducted and created as Future Summit. And Roger Hamilton, who is actually living in Bali and is very well known through Wealth Dynamic, had created this wonderful summit and invited Stephen Bartlett to come as a speaker and, contributed to this wonderful event. And here again, he contributed from an even more personal and more comprehensive and creative background. And what he really, really said, and that was one thing that stuck very closely, was which I carry now into my whole endeavor to create an academy that solely trains and certifies coaches through, in room, on site training and not online. Yes, I coach online. Yes, we will have lots of Zoom integrations and mentoring online once, our trainees have passed certain stages in their evolution of training and maybe even have certified. But generally, the idea is to get out of this rat race, to say we can do it all online. Let's just have these 12-week trainings programs, give them certificates, and then they have never ever even sat in front of a trainee buddy or somebody they personally know to exercise what really is happening in their own world, in their own inner world, reflecting to the learning their experience while becoming a coach. So for me, coaching is something very multifaceted. And love coaching is not just love coaching. It's not just about falling in love and staying in love. It has so many more assets and aspects. Assets actually just came out as a fun word, just me saying it. And the assets are really that we get trained as coaches to look at every aspect of relationship, the beginning, the end of a relationship, the not being in relationship, the aspects of something that is, maybe very hidden still in someone's subconscious or psyche that stops them to have the love life they want, whether in relationship or not. So we learn all these tools to begin to unravel the complexity of what it means being in relationship. And ourselves, being coaches, we need to understand these tools and these skills in our very own life to understand that whatever we bring as experience can help to shape the ability to make somebody else's journey so much easier and so much more, transformationally fulfilling. There is fulfillment when you feel healing. There is fulfillment in all of this. And here comes a wonderful other thing that I learned from Stephen Bartlett, that, all this starts with the willingness to embarrass yourself, embarrassment. And that's obviously the title today, the keyword of the title of this Venus podcast. I want to really speak about embarrassment. I grew up as a little girl with a lot of difficulties to be, really not shy, to show myself confidently. I had to do with a lot of background things. I think it was also that I had two very, very outgoing artistic parents who had to push themselves to be comfortable, being conductors, opera singers, musicians, having this stage as their professional platform, and had to be ready to perform. So I learned very early, watching what they were doing and how hard it sometimes was for them, that it was not something that I would easily choose. So what did I, after doing, dance trainings and being mother very young in my life, I became a film editor. And film editing is, you walk in a room and you go behind a black curtain, and here you sit almost by yourself. If you have a little team of people in an editing room in professional film editing, then that's already quite comprehensive. But usually you stay very much behind the scenes and alone, or with very few people. And here comes this sudden awakening that, how long in your life do you really want to do that? And obviously 12, 15 years into the career of being an editor, I decided I wanted to make movies, and I wanted to be involved in something bigger and more creative. And so I still produce movies, particularly documentaries, and also hopefully will one day premiere a big movie that I want to produce around love and relationship legacies. So coming into the whole space of doing something you have never done before, there is really only one thing to say, do I have the courage to do it or not, and if I not have the courage, how much willingness to face this do I really bring into motivation, how much readiness, and sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's super hard. And embarrassment is the biggest first thing that we face. We think, okay, I'm not good enough, then, here, why would I do this in the first place if people judge me, if it could not look good, or if I show something of myself that is not what I'm willing to easily show. And I had a bit of a thought process before starting filming this today and recording this today, and I thought, let me really think about the essence and the truth of embarrassment, because I have done so many incredibly dumb things, and just going out and doing events and standing on stages and going in front of TV cameras at a time I really didn't know what I was doing. I want to be really honest, even as a love coach, when you learn your lesson to help others, but then you're suddenly, the media approaches you, radio approaches you, TV approaches you, and you become really curious about widening your horizon, but then it's still very, very much an exercise of trust that you do it the best possible way, wouldn't we, isn't it? So I actually came up with the idea of what are 3 reasons why embarrassment is actually good for us. Why should we actually really embarrass ourselves? And I loved what Stephen was saying in both his talks in Bali I listened to. He said, we need that feeling that we are stretching ourselves beyond a particular level of comfort, going out of this comfort zone. And I was just, editing a few notes before starting, and really a first reason what we could connect with embarrassment very easily is that we truly care, that if we do it a particular way and it's not received, that we maybe not do it for the good of all. And I think that's a very valid point, that we often bring something into motion and want to speak something, but then we are probably not really exactly the way understood as we think we want to be understood. All right, so embarrassing also, or as embarrassment, embarrassing ourselves is a gateway to humility and humor. So the humility aspect, really, that it makes us a little softer, a little sweeter when we're actually standing there and realizing that we are suddenly completely exposed. Working with a lot of people, particularly in business, who have fear to fail, there's very often a story of something embarrassing in their early life attached to it. So, standing in front of the class and the teacher says something really, really very judgmental, and the whole class is laughing, and we are thinking forever we cannot do it again. I had a situation like that when I learned English, and I really missed to be easily, integrating basic English words. So with every language, it takes me longer than the average. But when I learn a language, then suddenly there comes this point, it really flips, and then it's almost like natural for me. If this English teacher, when I was 13, would know, and I don't think she's alive anymore, her husband was a very famous author and writer in German political literature. But I'm just sharing this story. If she would know that I immigrated into New Zealand only, 10 years after finishing high school, and actually now speak in front of cameras and completely conduct my professional, personal life to 90% in English, she would have completely never believed that. So here comes this interesting part, and yes, it happened. I stood in front of the class. She asked me these basic questions. It was, I think, the 2nd or 3rd English lesson ever in school, and it was very simple phrases, but I couldn't really recall them as easily. And here we are. Did I overcome my embarrassment to not speaking English the way others perceive it's the professional norm you appear? And I know my German accent is very strong even after 33 years not living in Germany. Yeah, and there's another thing, why it's good for us. Embarrassment burns away an ego shell. And I think in standing there in a little bit of a more frail and vulnerable state, when we suddenly realize that we are doing something that stretches us and we are feeling the energy coming at us. I mean, do you know the moment when you stand somewhere and you feel what people think about you? Even right now, there might be some of you who think, what on earth is she doing? Is Adriane really there where she wants to be? Better stop talking. No, but I continue my podcast today because I feel very confident to get this message through for the simple purpose to really tell you that it's something very human and very, very deeply self-loving if we give us the chance to make these shifts and not take it so utterly personal anymore, and let the ego drop a little bit and just say, I did it as best as I possibly could or can, and this is what I learned from it, and if I can do it a little bit better or with more, differentiation next time, yeah. And there are speaking coaches out there, and there are people who want to tell me how to do it right and what to say. And I tell you what, I never ever have a pure script. I have a few notes here, but I never have a script for anything I record in this fashion. So 3 transformations that happen when we embrace embarrassment. What is it really doing when we really embrace it? What is the next level up to these general goodies we are getting from it? The first one, it really transforms into confidence. There is a moment where embarrassment doesn't exist anymore. And I want to be really, I don't know embarrassment anymore. I just don't. I would only feel embarrassment if I would unconsciously bring myself in a situation to expose myself to something I should have known better, that it's not what's really good for me or aligned with who I am or what I'm really stand for in my value system. You know, that can have to do with clothing, this can have to do with a particular behavior, this can have to do with, you know, the expression of things I say or comment about. And I was and am still today a very free thinker and speaker. And many know me as being sometimes almost a little bit too open in what I say. But I had to come to a place where I learned to be silent and to listen more, and to be aware that when I say something, it actually only, absolutely only matters if something good is coming from it. So this whole world of where we gossip and where we go into this whole spin of wrong or right or judging or something, I have, you know, as much I have moments, I have things to say, but I try to express myself in a way that I'm really, really clear about helping somebody to understand me or helping the situation to be resolved, rather than getting my ego needs met. And, you know, this wanting to be understood is something I know my whole adult life, particularly in relationships. And now I understand this is not so much about me being understood anymore. I want to understand. I want to actually understand the situation and the people. And even if I'm not agreeing with them, I still put myself in this. And that creates confidence. This is really a powerful place. When you stand there and you say, hey, I actually can be silent when others don't feel good about, you know, themselves or about the situation, or even about me being present in the very way I am. Second part is it deepens connection. Embarrassment creates vulnerability, and I think the vulnerability and that softness and the honesty and authenticity that comes with it is such a beautiful thing to get closer to people. And I think even just admitting how we feel, and that embarrassment is not something really exposingly negative, but that we feel almost like, oh my God, you know, now I thought you wouldn't like that, you know, and how do you feel about this? And suddenly someone feels the permission to say, hey, this didn't go so well, or, you know, I would probably suggest you do it this way. But as we know from nonviolent communication, you know, there's this beautiful part where we actually just can own, you know, what do I observe, what do I think, what do I feel, and what is my proposal, my suggestion, or my way of conveying, you know, something into the situation that helps to shift it. And usually, if you really do this process with a lot of humility and understanding, we are creating very quickly a very beautiful forum of healing and transformation for relationships to deepen, to flourish, and to heal. And the third part is really in the transformational process, that it becomes a creative power. And I guess that's where I'm sitting within my evolution. I begin to just not think about anymore what other people think. She is creating a global love coach academy. What is that? You know, I'll leave all the other words out now, but why would she do that? Why she? Why now? Why in Bali? Why this way? How? And there's all these big questions with the question mark right after. And I tell you, with every interesting response or non-response, because non-responses and, you know, unsubscribing of my mail, you know, my regular emails, or not following me anymore in my channels, I realize, you know, that's the questions these individuals who potentially were very close to me asked themselves. But here comes the magic, the creative power in me. And I can really just speak completely about myself right now in the process, but I know I take a few others on the journey with me, is the creative power is just increasing every day more and more and more. And by the time we will really launch these trainings, I know that the entire setting and the entire, you know, quantum field of a Love Coach Academy being born in Bali, being held over the Asian Oceania continent with lots of influence from the European side, and we're bringing it next year over to Europe as well, the courses and the trainings. So here is some wonderful opportunity to get really, really potent and help this acceleration process to be very, very excitingly, you know, not just accelerated, but also, you know, embraced all over the world. I see it like lighthouses in every continent of the world in a few years. You know, and this is my legacy. It is my legacy project. In the age I'm now, with the history of my personal and health situation, and having had many years not being in really perfect, you know, situations to do it completely the way I wanted to do it. And now I suddenly, with a lot of praying, with a lot of faith, with a lot of encouragement, and also courage within myself, and with a lot of willingness to embarrass myself, I'm coming to a next level of true creativity. And I'm so happy and immensely proud, not just about what's happening, you know, I'm also proud of all the people's willingness to really learn with me, to do it in a way that supports others to become love coaches and conductors for love healing and relationship healing that can change not just individuals and couples, but communities, cities, countries, and ultimately continents and cultures. So this is my vision, and I know there are experts out there who know me, and there are other experts I will get to know, but the big secret is that there is a wealth of knowledge all over the planet in different cultures talking about these subjects. And yeah, I have my mentors, and yes, I have amazing coaches and teachers, and I was and have been very privileged to know them and to work with them still today. And every little message that was given to me since my very early decision, 2006, to make this my next professional chapter. This is almost 20 years now, when I really wanted to learn love coaching, and it took me years to find a school that certified me. So now I have the ability to give all this self-learning, this self-knowledge, this self-loving prospect and prosperity developed in my relationship understanding. I can give that further to those who carry it into new generations, into, you know, particularly the whole group of those who are in their late 20s, early 30s. I'm so happy. I have already, you know, a few really young coaches wanting to come on board, and I see the opportunity for something amazing to happen that enlightens, you know, not just those of us who have done it and had not just one marriage and have adult kids. Now we can actually work together with a generation of young adults who are, and I see this in many young people, they are so much more conscious than the generation just right after me. though those who are sitting in their 20s and 30s right now do it in many ways so much better than a lot of us in their 40s and 50s, because that sandwich in our generation that knows so much about divorce, and where the divorce rates are so high and relationship breaks up so common, and being single almost is the natural, normal way of conducting our life. And I want to break these patterns. I want to have discussions. I want to have a very open conversation, not just with the professionals, but also with, many coming from different places in the world, publicly admitting that their greatest wish, their greatest fulfillment would be to have a very fulfilling, very healthy, and very, very long-lasting, sustainable love and relationship life. I thank you with all my heart for listening today. I know that a lot has been shared today, but take embarrassment in your own hand, and I hope I can inspire you a little bit with what I have to share today. And if anything of what I shared rings a bell and you feel like, oh my God, Love Coach Academy, this is something I really want to learn about, then please, in the description box below is a contact link. You can always go via our website, via my call booking site. You can email us and ultimately, have a conversation with me personally. And I'm more than happy to meet you and to see how we can collaborate to make your love life or your career life really, really deeply fulfilling and bringing more love and more intimacy into your entire existence. All the best. With all my love from Bali. It's Friday, it's Venus Day, 17th October, I record this, and I'm so happy I'm back. I'm so happy the confidence and the words are coming naturally again in the midst of a lot of, administrative, creative, and, content creating work for everything we do to create a wonderful platform and academy for all of us to study together, a network for love and intimacy shining all over the world. Thank you so much. Namaste.